However you look at it, Mick Schumacher divides opinion in the F1 world. Many believe he was unfairly treated at Haas, while others believe he had more than enough time. Whatever way you look at it, the young driver has been crucial towards the Mercedes improvements that we've seen this season, with Hamilton hailing him as the key to success at certain races. Now, the German has finally spoken about what he thinks of both Lewis and George. We will let you decide on what to think of his statements. Want to know what Mick had to say about Lewis and George? Well, stick around to find out, and then stick around until the end, because it looks like there could be some good news or bad news depending on how you look at it for Daniel after Red Bull's most recent statement. Sebastian Vettel's shock retirement led to us witnessing one of the most epic silly seasons in F1 history, with the biggest losers being Mick Schumacher and Daniel Ricciardo. Both drivers went from being behind the wheel of an F1 car to reserve driver roles or third driver roles in the case of Daniel. Well, that was until Red Bull decided to fire Nick de Vries and replace the Dutchman with the evergreen Australian, who is still yet to find his feet in the AlphaTauri, but with the second half of the season now in front of us, we could possibly see the former Red Bull driver push Yuki or even oust Sergio Perez from Red Bull. For any new F1 fans, an F1 reserve driver is a rather interesting concept. The role can change from team to team, but generally speaking, a reserve driver is on standby during a race weekend to fill in if one of the main drivers cannot race. That means they travel with their team to Grand Prix races and are typically seen in the garage or on the pit wall. They also attend the team meetings and briefings during the weekend to ensure that they are able to access important information should they be required to step in. Reserve drivers are also afforded some time in car on the track, usually during the first free practice session each weekend. For example, Robert Schwartzman will provide an important comparison test for Ferrari when he takes over from Carlos Sainz during FP1 for the Dutch Grand Prix. Ferrari will run Schwartzman, who is their official reserve driver, as part of their rookie driver rules in practice for the race weekend. This rule states that teams must run a driver who has completed fewer than 2 Grand Prix at a minimum of 2 race weekends per season. Backup drivers frequently work on a team simulator outside of a race weekend. This allows the driver to maintain their skills while also providing essential data to the team regarding potential tweaks to the car. They are generally given time in the car at post or pre-season testing. Sometimes, drivers are both a team's official reserve and test driver, although in other cases, there is a separate test or third driver who typically doesn't travel with the team. It's also worth noting that some teams have more than one reserve driver. While this may appear unnecessary due to the unlikelihood of both full-time drivers being made unavailable, it's mainly in place to cover the reserve drivers' schedules. Interestingly, Daniel was not a reserve driver but rather a third driver, which means his role is flexible, but key responsibilities include testing, simulator work, and commercial activity. As we all now know, the Aussie has stepped in to replace Nick de Vries, whose career at Red Bull was doomed from the start, as even Horner has laid down exactly why the Dutchman had to leave AlphaTauri. The whole purpose of AlphaTauri and Toro Rosso before was to be training drivers as potential candidates for Red Bull Racing. That's why Nick, it didn't feel like he was going to be a Red Bull Racing candidate. So then the argument you put is, does it make sense to keep it going? Horner said. This makes you wonder why on earth they got Daniel in, as he doesn't exactly fill in that description either. It makes you think that Daniel is just a stopgap as well, with the main aim for him to be shipped out at the end of the season, particularly if Liam Lawson has anything to say about it. There is no doubt that F1 is the pinnacle of motorsport, and with only 20 places available, competition is fierce, with many drivers reaching the peak of motorsports only to be found out and left rather abruptly. This is what Mick Schumacher will be looking to avoid, as the young German driver has been the subject of a rather nasty feud between Günther Steiner and ToTo Wolff, and even Helmut Marko has gotten involved. I guess that is the scar you bear if your surname is Schumacher. There is a huge amount of expectation around Mick, with many believing that the young German driver needs to be given a chance in Mercedes, as he will struggle to find it elsewhere. Schumacher did get a taste of the current Mercedes W14 on next year's tyres in a Pirelli tyre test in June, completing over 150 laps in the process. In terms of an F1 return, Schumacher has been linked with a potential comeback drive with Williams in place of the struggling Logan Sargent. Opportunities seem to have dried up elsewhere, especially with the rest of the driver market remaining stagnant. Bayer, who recently joined AlphaTauri as their CEO, believes Schumacher needs more on-track outings to prove that he's good enough to return to F1. That's where his challenge lies. How can he prove that he is fast? If ToTo doesn't put him in a car once, it will be difficult for Mick, Bayer told GP Blog. The German has been credited for several turnarounds mid-weekend Mercedes have enjoyed this season, indicating that he's playing a crucial role back at the Mercedes factory in Brackley, leaving Wolff to have nothing but praise to say for the 24-year-old driver. Mick is just such a great guy. He's not only a good racing driver, but he has all the right values in place, said the Austrian in the team's mid-season review video. Schumacher has helped develop the W14, and his simulator work has also helped the team set it up for each given track. That is one of the team's most significant challenges on any given race weekend, given just how much of a diva the car can be, to use a phrase uttered by Wolff himself. Most notably, the reserve driver was credited with Mercedes' impressive turnaround in the British Grand Prix. He worked until the early morning hours to help figure out what's been needed and contributed to a better qualifying result than what might have been the case without him driving, with ToTo reserving special judgment for the reserve driver. He said, "The engineers and Mick Schumacher are working late into the night until 2 a.m. trying to figure out how to get the best preparation of the car to be in as good shape for qualifying lap for that single push lap without changing the fundamental setup. So only working on the things that you can change, the tire pressures, the flap angles, and so on." This is all great, but with the young German driver behind two excellent drivers in Lewis and George, how has he found it working with the 7-time world champion? If Mick Schumacher is divisive, well then his teammate at Mercedes is not exactly loved by everyone. Hamilton has had multiple clashes with his teammates at various points, in particular Nico Rosberg and Fernando Alonso, with both having some interesting words to say about Sir Lewis. This would leave you to think that Lewis may be difficult to work with, but on the contrary, Mick only had praise for his teammate. It's also been fascinating working with Lewis and George. It's an interesting period for me as I get to look over and work with two fantastic drivers, which you don't always get to do. I've learned a lot about what's important in terms of approaching the race weekends. I feel like I've already gained so much knowledge to add to my skill set. I don't think I would have learned and gained so much this early into my role, said Mick. What Mick found the most shocking was the sheer volume of exchanges the drivers have with the engineers. As a driver, you usually do not get to hear what's going on between all the engineers while you're out on track, so listening in during the sessions has been extremely interesting. I was quite shocked at the season opener in Bahrain. I did not expect the sheer amount of exchange that happens, continued Mick. Given his recent involvement in F1, or rather lack of it, Schumacher now has more spare time to hone his skills and stay ready for another opportunity. However, he admits that it's been hard missing out on the chance to be in the car for real. "My main focus up to now has been working in the simulator because I have raced a car under the new set of regulations. I have a good understanding of how to drive them. You don't know what you're missing until you're actually a part of it. What I really appreciate in working with those engineers is that they are all genuinely listening to you and your opinion matters. And what is special from an emotional side is that many people who are working for the team now were working here when my dad was driving," finished Mick. The current F1 season has been filled with the return of Daniel Ricciardo, and if the Honey Badger would take over from Sergio Perez, with many believing Checo's slump in form may prompt Red Bull to drop Checo and get the Aussie back in, but Horner has rubbished that claim. "We have a contract," Horner told Speedcaf. "We're happy with Checo and he will be our driver next year." The Honey Badger is just one of Red Bull's options, with the team boss saying that Ricciardo's teammate Yuki Tsunoda is also in the running for the 2025 race seat, as is Perez, and even drivers outside of the Red Bull family. "I think 25, it's just good always to have options," he continued. "I mean, Max is fixed until 28. Checo's contract runs until the end of next year. If Checo delivers, we'll be going with Checo. If he doesn't, for whatever reason, then it's..." But that won't just be restricted to AlphaTauri drivers, because there's an awful lot of drivers up and down the pit lane that would like to drive a Red Bull car. And age won't be a factor, with Horner saying that Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton, 42 and 38 respectively, have shown that age counts for very little, which is good news for Ricciardo, who'll turn 36 in 2025. "I don't see age as a barrier," he said when asked if Ricciardo would be considered too old in 2025. "When I see what Fernando Alonso is doing and Lewis Hamilton, it's all about what's up here, in the mind, that counts."